Hey guys, number one Marmaduke fan here. I'm finally finished with the Legend of Zelda manga series. They didn't bring over the little bonus manga from the Wind Waker, so I'll have to dig up the fan scans of that to do a little video on that. I thought I'd just really quick tell you about the Marvel and DC book I read this week because my basic thoughts are these are so neat, right? Like, it's not a 10-minute video, they're just neato, and you should go get them. So, X-Men Rictor, this is kind of weird because it's X Factor, not X-Men, and those are two different things, but it was originally X Factor 17. So, I made a video a while ago where I said I kind of wish that Marvel would put out a lot of these digital comics free for kids, during cough, cough, you know what, but I can't say what it is without getting demonetized. That really hip and interesting news event everybody's talking about, cough, cough, cough. Anyway, that thing, yeah. So lots of people like Audible and stuff are putting out free content for kids, right? Because kids are home from school. And I actually haven't looked up to see if Marvel and DC are doing anything during this, but I just kind of think in general it should really be easy to on ramp. In marketing, they call it on ramping. You give the person something free to get them interested in what you have, and then you sell them on the X-Men figurines and the big $100 box set legendary edition of the X-Men, right? So this is if this is maybe a $300 purchase and this is a $1 purchase. I'm saying don't even make it a $1 purchase. Make it super easy for and the thing I thought is maybe instead of doing just a bunch of random comic book reviews, and maybe instead of doing a Wikipedia article, maybe a fun thing would be, because the thing about a Wikipedia article is if I just say, oh, the Dark Phoenix Saga, and then this occurred, and then this event occurred, right? That gives you a lot of information that might help you, but I feel like it doesn't actually help you know what you're supposed to go read. So my bright idea was use that website that shows you what comic books came out on this day in history. And instead of focusing it on this arc and this arc and this arc, I would focus it on what was new, what was coming out, and what would be the most fun comic book to read if you were born in, I don't know, 1991 or something. But anyway, so this is a perfectly fun comic. It's a little complicated because, they reference the Dark Phoenix Saga and all this stuff, but it's fun in its own right, in spite of all of this crazy... But that's part of the fun of it. The strength is the flaw of Western comics, where I guess for weebs, this is why you should check out Western comics, is if you only read weeb stuff, is they were very hectic and very crazy and lots of things were going on. And there's, even though there are manga artists who are influenced by Western artists, there really still isn't an equivalent to whatever the heck was going on in the Marvel Expanded Universe in the 90s. Things were happening all the time. So Louis Simonson is the writer, Walter Simonson the penciler, Bob Wiacek, the inker. I like that the thing they promise on the cover actually happens. Beast actually grips Cyclops so he can dangle him out the helicopter and he can get the shot in. And it's even more awesome on the cover than what it is in the comic book because they pumped everything up for the cover. So perfectly fun issue. I'm still going to be donating it. This issue of The Flash, There's No Such Thing as The Flash, is actually, I didn't spill water on it, but it's also going to be one of the first books I'm putting in my Keep Forever pile for a while because Geoff Johns is a writer and he does a good job, fun little Alice in Wonderland story, but because of Angel Unzueta's really radical compositions and posing in this. So Unzueta's the penciler, Doug Hazelwood's the inker. So Unzueta's poses are nuts, and I love it because this is kind of like a Alice in Wonderland story. Wally West wakes up and nobody knows who he is. He seems to be in kind of a fascist alternative dimension. He thinks he might be going nuts, and everything is pushed up to 111, the hand all the way out in front of him. There's even literally a boobs and butt pose where he's twisting all the way around. I gotta find that. They do some cool talk about what the Flash symbol represents. There it is. There's the boob. Patriarchy! Where is organs? But they do some cool talk about what the Flash symbol represents and how it represented something different to each, to both Jay Garrick's The Golden Age Flash and Barry Allen, The Silver Age Flash. And it's just what a great character, right? They talk about the legacy and inheriting a title from an older character. And the thing about Wally West is Wally West was basically Robin for a decade or two before he inherited the mantle of the Flash. So it really felt like he earned it and he was carrying on and respecting the legacy of Boomer Flash, Barry Allen. This would be Greatest Generation Flash, Boomer Flash, and Wally West would kind of be Gen X Flash, I think. It's really great. I love how each one, the lightning represents something different to them. I just love how everything is crazy and pushed to the max in the posing. Uh, Absolutely fantastic issue. Great example of using the human body language unrealistically to make a kind of emotional point about losing control and everything falling apart. And I love how they tied it in with Geoff Johns as the writer. They tied it in with the new book that Geoff Johns is writing. Good job, BC. You won this round. Okay. Hopping into Phantom Hourglass. Now, the thing about Phantom Hourglass is kind of a silly, fun Game Boy game. It's the sequel to Wind Waker, which is my favorite Zelda game, and I'm still kind of sad that Wind Waker hasn't gotten a proper manga. It's one of the funniest ones, and it's also Phantom Hourglass, I feel, is like, because it's so funny and it's so youthful, it's one of the ones with like the least, meaty content for me to dig into. At the end of the book, they literally explained that their theme for this one was they wanted jokes. They wanted to push the jokes to the max. This also really kind of strongly follows the pattern of the game, whereas some of their others, they go off into La La Land and they just come up with all sorts of neat extra stuff, and they kind of on purpose try to avoid making it feel like, oh, we go to level 1, we beat level 1. We go to level 2, we beat level 2. I feel like Phantom Hourglass is the one that feels the most like, oh yeah, I remember this level of the game, I remember this boss, now we're off to level 2. Right, like they took... beyond just taking inspiration from the game, they basically used the game's pattern as their story plots pattern. Now, some of this, it really works well. Like, there's this whole bit, because Nintendo was weird, where they had you, like, yell into the microphone of the DS to get a cannon. So they just sort of cleverly turned that into Link has to... the guy will give Link a cannon if he asks him and really puts all his heart and feeling into it. So he just keeps yelling louder and louder. That's a neat little idea. Jumping ahead, I think this is original. So Linebeck's kind of a tragic, interesting character. Go! Dagnabbit, we are retiring this phone so hard. Anyway, Linebeck seems like a coward, and yet there's kind of like maybe a more subtle heroism and compassion to him that Link gradually brings out of him, almost like he's a surrogate father figure. I think this whole thing about Linebeck's tragic past might be original to the manga. I don't remember it in the game, and it adds a lot of dimension to him because now he has like an active cowardice in his past that he is really ashamed of, and yet he's still a coward here in the present. So it's sort of like he hasn't overcome that moral failing in his past. I feel like Tetra got done wrong. Tetra is one of my favorite versions of Princess Zelda because she's a tough little 12-year-old pirate girl, and that's so cool. And she doesn't get to play a very big role in this story, but Linebeck is very fun, and they have their comedic hijinks and they save the day. So not my favorite one in the series, but overall I just reiterate that this is one of the best series of all time, and I can't wait to continue Twilight Princess, whereas this one is kind of targeted at like 10-year-olds. Twilight Princess, they're definitely targeting like 15-year-olds, and they're adding a lot of sophistication to what they're doing. This was a neat volume because they show like their private studio and their working process. Both of them, I didn't know that both of them were involved in the artistic production, so that was kind of interesting. They lay out, so like if you're a kid, and manga is obviously beating Western comics, this gives you like a whole layout of steps to take to start making your own mangoes. And okay, what I love about this so much, these 2 pages, is they lay out how for each version of Link, they had like a one-word keyword to keep in mind to mentally separate them. And some of these I flat out called. Like for Minish Cap, I noticed the fairy tale storytelling style, and so fairy tales was literally their one-word theme for Minish Cap. Jokes was their theme for Phantom Hourglass. Poor Wind Waker Link. That's how they sum him up as a joke. But let's see these. So cool was their theme for Ocarina of Time. Strange was their theme for Majora's Mask. Cute was their theme for Oracle of Ages. Personality was their theme for Four Swords. Pure Love was their theme for A Link to the Past, and Challenge was their theme for Twilight Princess. That's great. Same basic idea of a young hero, but each one has his own flavor and individuality and texture and character, and each of them works differently for different age groups. Fantastic. All right, so it's the best series of all time. Everybody should have it in their library. We should give them to kids. fantastic. That's it. So this is a keep forever. This is, of course, a keep forever. This I spilled water on it, so the fact I'm donating it is no shade at all. It's a great issue, but I hope some kid will really enjoy this issue of X Factor. That's it. Number one Marmaduke fan. I love you guys. Catch you later. And goodbye to this crummy old phone. Look at the shiny sunlight on my hand as I wave goodbye to the old iPhone 5. Bye-bye, iPhone 5.